My name is Bill. I recently turned 30 years old, and since that day, I've been called an idiot a lot. I'm confused and depressed. To make it clear to you, I will tell my story from the beginning. 2 weeks before my birthday, my wife Kelly and I traveled to my parents' house. My father, Boston, is part-time my employer. He owns his own corporation that sells office equipment, and I run the planning department at that company. So my dad and I see each other every day. At first, it was a little stressful for me, but then I realized that this is more reliable. No one will dare to fire you at the most inopportune moment. However, I was too hasty with my conclusions then. Today I'm unemployed. But let's go back to my story. At my parents' house, my mother gave us a wonderful pudding. We sat around the table and my father began an unexpected conversation. Soon our Bill will be 30 years old. Bill, what would you like to get for your birthday? He asked. I immediately thought of the motorboat I had long dreamed of. Before I could open my mouth, my wife closed the subject. Bill dreams of buying himself a motorboat, but it's an unnecessary purchase. Because when he gets a new toy, it will be almost impossible to get him home on weekends. He will be outdoors with his friends, she said. I felt a bit of resentment, but decided not to say anything. My mother supported Kelly's position. Men are still children at any age. Kelly's telling the truth. There is no reason for him to be distracted by hobbies when there is a big change coming up in his father's company. It will distract him from his work, she added. Thank you, my dear and beloved ones. You're very kind. You've already put me in a festive mood, I declared angrily. My loved ones pretended not to hear it. On the way home, I was going to tell Kelly everything, but she surprised me with her new plan. The girls and I were supposed to meet today and discuss plans for my friend Jane's wedding. But I opted for your family. We visited your family, and now I can go about my business. Don't miss me, honey. I'll be late. She said, get out of the car and went off to her friends. I got even angrier and postponed the important conversation until the next evening. During that time, I met up with my friend Kevin and told him what had happened. Kevin listened to me and shook his head. Yeah, man. It sounds like things aren't going so smoothly in your family as you might think. I will even say there is danger brewing, he said. What do you mean? I can't get Kelly to respect my passion, asked my friend. Probably not. Kelly doesn't really care about you. That could be because she's fallen out of love with you. Or worse, found someone better. I mean, better for her. No offense, but your wife looks 20 in her 30s. And she's got an easygoing disposition, which is a rare thing these days. So get tough with her before you end up in an awkward situation, Kevin advised. I've known Kevin since high school. He's always been honest with me. After thinking about what he said, I decided to listen. I planned to have a serious talk with Kelly that afternoon evening and demand that she respect my leisure time and anything I wanted to acquire for myself. But the important conversation again failed to materialize. Near the end of the workday, Kelly herself called me and said, Bill, my mom went to a party at her friend's house tonight and left her sick doggy home alone. She asked me to stop by her apartment after work and see how her pet is doing. I'm gonna be late. Don't be bored, she said. And then she hung up. Oh, well, I decided, if that's the case, I will organize my own leisure time too. Then I dialed my father's phone number. He picked up right away and said, Bill, where the hell have you been? We have an audit tomorrow, and the firm and the paperwork isn't ready yet. I need all my managers. We will work overnight, he said. Dad, I wanted to tell you that tomorrow morning I'm going to the countryside with my friends. I need a rest. I'm tired, I said. Bailey, son, I understand. You don't know how tired I am, your father. Let's finish the important things in a few days, and then you can go wherever you want. And I will go somewhere with your mother. In the meantime, you have to help me, my father asked. I had to go back to the office. I left a couple hours ago. All my co-workers were at their desks. We started preparing the paperwork for the audit. When only an hour had passed, my dad came up to me and said, "Bill, you're in charge. Make sure all the documents are correct, and then put my stamp and your signature on it. If anything goes wrong with the inspection, I will ask you," he said. "But, Dad, that's not fair. Where are you going?" I asked. "I'm going home. Your mother is home alone. You know her, she doesn't like to be alone. She gets panic attacks. But everyone else must think I'm doing more important things, that they are poring over papers." "All right, hang in there, man," said my dad, and left with his driver. I had to work all night. The next day, I woke up to my mother's voice. "You two careerists don't know any peace at all. Okay, you're young, but your father isn't a young man to spend all night at work." She was indignant. I lifted my head from the pillow in incomprehension. "Mom, Dad gathered us in the office in my home. He said that you're alone and miss you." My mother gave me a questioning look. "Bill, your father didn't come home. He didn't show up until this morning and said that he spent the night at the office. Wait, I need to talk to him right now." My mother said, forgot why she came to see me, and went back home. I continued to sleep as my favorite wife, Callie, had already gone somewhere else since morning without even warning me about. That's how the week went by. I felt like a neglected kitten. I wanted to throw a tantrum and get into an argument with Callie, but she was never home. One of those days, my wife was going out again in the evening after work. While she was putting on makeup in front of the mirror, I managed to get her cell phone. I was curious to know what urgent plans she had this time. So I opened her messenger and decided to look through her correspondence. It was like being struck by lightning in my head when I found my father first on the list. He'd been texting Kelly recently. "Kelly, have you forgotten that we are supposed to meet at the appointed place today?" He wrote an hour ago. "No, I haven't forgotten anything. I'm rushing home to church and then I will go straight out and run to meet you at the same place. I still need to make sure Bill doesn't suspect of us anything." She replied to my father, and he sent her a thumbs up in response. I instantly concluded, my wife is cheating on me with my father. This is perfectly acceptable since my father has a lot of money. He always had a lot of hotties around him. But how could my Kelly do this? Why do I have to suffer such grief? "Kelly, we need to have a serious talk," I said when my wife came out of the bedroom. "Bill, I don't have time. I've got a lot on my plate this week. We'll talk sometime later. But tonight, don't miss me," she said, kissed me on the cheek, and left the house. I wanted to go after her, catch them with my father, and make a big scandal. But that was too much of a strain of my psyche. I decided for the time being to think of the best way to get back at my wife for such a betrayal. Since that day, my attitude towards Kelly had changed a lot. Everyone noticed it. The first person to notice my mood was my father's secretary, Betty. She has been working for my father for several years, and we have become friends. "Bill, you haven't been yourself. What's the matter?" she asked me casually. "Nothing much, family matters, but it's temporary," I replied. "You've never been so down before. It seems very serious. But you hang in there. You'll be fine. If you need help, you can always count on me," Betty said. In that moment, I felt a universal gratitude for her. "Betty, do you ever have moments when your heart aches because people close to you do you wrong?" I asked. Betty put her papers aside and sat down on the edge of my desk. "Of course they do. You might say I live in it. I'm hopelessly in love with one man, and he doesn't seem to love me. He makes it clear to me at every turn, and I can't seem to stop loving him. So, I understand," she said. "You hang in there too. If you need my help, you can always count on me," I said and shook her hand. That day, I was sad as usual because of the betrayal of the people closest to me. I couldn't concentrate on my work. I decided to go for a little walk. In the office hallway, I met Betty. Her eyes were puffy, and she looked sad. "Betty, what's wrong with you? Are you sick?" I asked. No, don't mind me. I just had a fight with a friend. Where are you going? She asked. I can concentrate on work. I thought I will take a walk. If you want, we can go together. I will call my dad and tell him I gave you an important work assignment, I suggested. No, thank you. I don't think your dad really needs me anyway. Let's go for a walk. I'll be quick. I'll just get my purse, she said. An hour later, Betty and I reached the rides in the old abandoned park. Despite the different kinds of entertainment, we were not having any fun. Betty looked sad and shrugged her shoulders. Tell me, Betty, what's your biggest dream in life? Maybe I can fulfill it, I asked, hoping to distract us both from our bad moods. If you really want to know, I dream of beautiful, lavish wedding. Only that there were not so many guests, that the closest people were present, and most importantly, that it should be the man I love, she said. I understand your favorite man did not cope with this dream. How about we organize a spontaneous wedding for you? You can imagine any man as your fiancé, but his role will be played by me. How about that? I suggested. You're crazy, Betty laughed at least. Well, how do you envision it? It's very simple. I said pull out my cell phone and dial the limo service. They said they'd have a white limo for us in an hour. Betty, we don't have much time. We have to find a wedding dress right away, I said. I know where to find one. I saw the most beautiful dresses at the saloon 5 years ago. But that dress has been sold twice since then, and has probably been written off. Betty was sad. So? It was the last one in the salon? Come on, let's go try on some new dresses, I suggested. As the limousine driver hooked at us, Betty was hurriedly putting on the wedding dress she'd chosen. We had 2 minutes to do her face, and her long hair was still disheveled. We left the saloon in a frenzy of excitement. As I had asked him, the driver has provided cold champagne and fruit for snacks in the limo. Bill, you're crazy. What if someone sees you and me together like this? Betty asked after we'd traveled halfway across town. So be it. But to tell you the truth, my wife doesn't care. Lately, she's not interested in where I am or who I spend my time with, and she'll live in a secret life with no room for me. I dread the moment when that secrets come out. She's scary, Betty, I said and almost cried. Betty couldn't understand me half a word. I'm sorry, Bill. I didn't mean to spoil the party. Let's not focus on the bad stuff tonight. My favorite man is a jerk, but I don't want to waste any of my attention in this lovely magical dress, she said. The day went by without a hitch. Having gotten a lot of positive emotions, I paid for the limo, and then Betty walked me home. To tell the truth, we didn't even kiss. And there wasn't even a thought of that. It was just a friendly shared fun. Back at home, I was alone again. Kelly had left a note saying it was her grandmother's birthday. Why she didn't invite me along, it's a mystery to me. As my birthday approached, I was already certain that there will be no family celebration. I decided to spend the day with my friends. When I called Kevin, he said he would congratulate me a day later, and he was scheduled to have dinner at the restaurant with his wife on my birthday. I was angry and depressed. My other friend refused to accept the invitation too, citing different plans. Bill, you should be home with your loved ones that day, said each of them. But they didn't realize that by doing so, they were spoiling my mood even more. On my birthday, I decided to take care of my own party. I approached Betty towards the end of the day. She was still sad. Will you mind sharing the party with me today? I suggested. She shrugged, thought for a moment, and then gave her consent. Kelly and I went straight to the club after work. We will be there until morning, I said from the evening. That's what I think too. If your loved ones don't appreciate you, then let be a lesson to them, Kelly said. But as the time was approaching midnight, Betty suddenly announced, Bill, I'm sick as hell. I've had so much to drink, I'm going home. I was feeling tired by then too, but I really didn't want to be alone. Why don't you come to my place? I probably don't have anybody home. We'll continue to party when you're feeling better, I suggested. Callie silently agreed. When we reached the yard of my house, I realized that I had done the right thing. The light in the windows of my apartment was not lit, which means that my wife Callie is again engaged in other things. When I saw this, I almost cried. Betty, it's my birthday today, and I'm insanely lonely. Look, there is no one at home, I said. Betty hugged me silently. Yeah, it's bad luck for you, but you have me, she said and suddenly kissed me. As we reached the door of my apartment, we kissed incessantly. I struggled to find the keys toward the door in my pocket and entered the apartment. It's dark inside. I'm going to turn on the light now, and then we'll sit in the kitchen, I said. No, don't turn it on. We'll go straight to your bedroom, Betty said and started kissing me again. I wasn't against this plan. I started ripping off her clothes in the dark. At some point, we tripped over something hard and I felt a sharp pain in my leg. I immediately forgot about Betty, grabbed my leg, and frantically tried to turn on the light. But then, the unexpected happened. Suddenly, the lights in all the rooms came on. As I sat in utter bewilderment with my pants down on the floor, I heard loud shots. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Billy. Happy birthday to you. And then the closet door in the living room opened, and out popped my father, followed by my mother, with Kelly in between. Behind the back of the big couch in the living room, I saw Kevin and his wife coming up. The rest of the friends with their wives were hiding in the balcony. The next moment, some of them opened the champagne. Others were throwing confetti around and waiting for my reaction. Betty was trying to somehow pull on her newly discarded, lightweight dress, but every now and then she could tangle in it and stumble over it. My father, when he saw her froze in place, and my wife's smile disappeared from her face. Bill, your father and Kelly and I have decided to give you your favorite motorboard. Are you excited? My mother asked. Bill, aren't you ashamed to bring a whore into the house on such an important day? My wife asked quietly. Betty, what are you doing next to my son? My father was outraged, and Betty was not confused. Boston, you said that your wife has been living in an insane asylum for years. Did you lie to me so brazenly? She asked. Boston, is she a mistress who sends you pictures at night? Didn't you swear you were done with her and fired for a long time ago? My mother was outraged. It was time for me to voice my resentment too. Dad, Kelly, aren't you ashamed to have an affair behind my back? Did you think I wouldn't find out that you were secretly seeing each other? You weren't even hiding it, I said. Bill, what the hell are you talking about? My father was angry. Boston, so you even decided not to tell your son's fiancé pass you by? What's that supposed to mean? My mother was outraged. Bill, you're a real idiot. What's make you think I'm dating your father? My wife was outraged. What about the message about the meeting 2 weeks ago? I asked. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry, but your son is a real idiot. Tell him that you and I met that day to pick out a motorboard for him. But we didn't buy one that day, so we met together a few more times afterward, Kelly said. My mom and dad nodded their heads. Kelly's telling the truth, Bill. We really did pick out a present together. How could you think that about this? I've only been with my wife, my father said. I can barely remember the rest of the story, but all the tanging on my family was that I was an idiot. After a while, they all split up. Kelly was the last one to kick me out of the house. I went to Kelly's house, but she wouldn't let me in and just called me an idiot. The next morning, my father said I was the reason my mother kicked him out of the house. He called me an idiot and fired me from my job. That was the day I was born. Now, I'm trying to figure out what my mistake was.